Good morning, dear friends. Today is the 27th of March, in the year 2004. We are in the Deer Park Monastery for our Colors of Compassion retreat. When Nelson Mandela came to France for his first visit, the press asked him what would be the thing he liked to do the most. And Nelson Mandela said, well, what he wanted to do the most is to sit down and do nothing. He said that since the time he was released from prison, he had been so busy. Had to be with so many people, had to do so many things. He didn't have even time to breathe, to sit down. So his deepest desire to sit down and to do nothing. To sit down and to do nothing is sitting meditation. And those of us who practice daily sitting, we are much more lucky than Nelson Mandela. To sit down and do nothing seems to be easy, seems to be enjoyable. But I'm not sure that if he was given the chance to sit down and do nothing, he could do it. Nelson Mandela, I doubt. He had never learned how to sit and to do nothing. This is difficult, not so easy. Because when you sit, things begin to come up. And you have to know how to take care of them. And therefore, sitting meditation, you need some guidance and so on. Sitting meditation can be wonderful. And we can get in touch with the wonderful aspect of life. We can get in touch with the wonders of life within and around us. For our nourishment and healing, we just sit there and enjoy. And many things are enjoyable, like our in-breath, our out-breath. You breathe in and you enjoy your in-breath. You breathe out and you enjoy your out-breath. You focus your attention on your eyes. And you find out your eyes are still in excellent conditions. Breathing in, I'm aware of my eyes. Breathing out, I smile to my eyes. My eyes are still in good conditions. I only need to open them in order to get in touch with the paradise of forms and colors. So my eyes is a wonder of life. And if I continue, I touch many wonders of life in my body and in my consciousness as well. All are miracles, all are wonders of life. My heart, breathing in, I'm aware of my heart. Breathing out, I smile to my heart. My heart is a wonder. My heart is there to maintain my well-being. My heart works non-stop day and night in order to assure that I continue to be well. I have the chance to go to sleep and to rest, but my heart continues. Many people don't have a heart like mine. And their deepest concern is to have a normal heart. so that they won't have things like a stroke. And when I breathe in and I embrace my heart with my mindfulness, I find out how wonderful to have a heart that functions well. That is one basic condition for my well-being, for my peace. And I realize by embracing my heart that I may not have been very kind to my heart. I smoke, I drink, I gave my heart a difficult time, many difficult times. And that is enlightenment, that is awakening. And I decide to take good care of my heart. I stop smoking, I stop drinking, and so on. And this is the practice of love, directed to my heart. And when I know how to deal with my body in such a way, I am kind to my body, I take good care of my body. And there is well-being, peace in my body. I learn how to eat, what to eat, how to drink, what to drink, in order not to bring toxins and poisons into my body. And that is the practice of mindfulness, of consumption, of eating. And breathing in and out, I can also get in touch, I might get in touch with the pain and sorrow in me and around me. And with mindfulness, I can handle them well and help to transform them. So mindfulness has two functions. To handle the positive, refreshing and healing things, so that I can get the nourishment and healing. I have to get in touch with the pure land of the Buddha, the kingdom of God, my true home. And mindfulness helped me to do so. We have learned that the kingdom is available in the here and now, the pure land also, with all the wonders of life inside and outside. So part of our practice is to get in touch. And now. And then part of practice is that when we get in touch with the negative things like anger and fear and pain and sorrow inside and around, mindfulness helps us to recognize them, to embrace them, and not to let them overwhelm us and transform us into a victim. Not only the kingdom, the paradise is available, but hell is available in the here and the now also. That is why mindfulness practice helps us to get in touch with both. Get in touch with the kingdom in order to be nourished, and get in touch with hell in order to protect us and to transform. And the Four Noble Truths that we talk about are about that. The first Noble Truth is ill-being. That is hell. Hell in the here and the now. We cannot say, no, hell does not exist. It exists, it is there, very solid. The third truth is well-being. It is there. You cannot say that well-being is not there. You have to get in touch. Well-being is there, but we don't recognize it. We don't know how to get in touch and to profit from it. You cannot say that the blue sky is not there. You know very well that the blue sky is there. But do you profit from it? Do you know that the mountains are there, beautiful, majestic? You cannot say that they are not there as wonders. But maybe you are blocked by your suffering and you cannot get in touch. I used to talk about my toothache. When you get a toothache, you suffer, especially during the night, because no dentist is open at that time. So you have to continue to suffer, and at 9 in the morning they will open and you have a chance. And during the time you suffer, you get the kind of enlightenment that not having a toothache is wonderful. But there are many days we do not have a toothache, but we don't enjoy at all our non-toothache. Our non-toothache is well-being, but you don't know how to recognize it and enjoy it until you have a toothache. And that is why you cannot say that well-being is not there. It is there, but you are not used to get in touch and to profit from it. The kingdom of God is there, available, but you are not available to the kingdom. The Pure Land of the Buddha is there, but you are not available to the Pure Land. This is a pity. And that is why the practice of mindfulness helps you to go home to the present moment and get in touch with the third noble truth. The third noble truth is not a hope in the future. It is a reality that is in the here and now. Those of us who practice Pure Land Buddhism deeply, we know that the Pure Land is not in the West and in the distant future after we die. No. Those of us who practice Pure Land, whether we are Chinese, or Vietnamese, or Korean, or Japanese, we know that the deepest teaching of Pure Land is that the Pure Land is in our heart, in the here and the now. And if we have mindfulness, we can touch that Pure Land right now and right here. Pure Land in my heart. It sounds very familiar. Pure Land in the here and the now. It's very, very familiar. Hiền Pháp means in the here and the now, things that happen in the here and the now that can be touched. And in modern Chinese, it's written it's pronounced Tang Xia Jing Tu, the Pure Land in the here, in the present moment. In the Christian tradition. You can find the same teaching that the kingdom of God is at hand. It is available. Whether you are Baptist or Methodist, you can practice the same kind of practice. The kingdom of God is available. And because you don't get in touch, that is why you are running after the things you consider to be happiness, namely fame, wealth, power, sex, and so on. So whether you are a teacher in the Rodo Shinshu tradition, in the Pure Land tradition, or in the Baptist tradition, or in the Zen tradition, you can offer your people nothing less than the kingdom of God, nothing less than the Pure Land of the Buddha. And you have to embody that teaching, that practice. You have to live in the kingdom of God as a pastor, as a priest, as a monk, as a minister. You have to embody the practice of living happily in the here and the now, so that your teaching will be true teaching. And when the people who come to practice with you, they are able to taste the taste of the kingdom, they will abandon their attempt to run after the objects of their craving, namely power, sex, fame, and wealth. And this is the basic practice. When we confirm that the kingdom is available, that well-being is possible, we confirm also the existence of the practice that can make the kingdom available, that will make well-being available right here, right now. And that is what we call the noble path. Noble path. The Eightfold Path, leading, revealing the kingdom of God, so that we can get in touch. And if the teaching is good, the practice is good, you get it right away. If you are a good practitioner, one in-breath is enough for you to go into the kingdom. You only make one step, and that is enough. But sometimes there's a habit energy pushing you out of the kingdom. You want to run, and that is the habit energy that has been transmitted by former generations. But you resist. You say, no, I don't want to get out of the kingdom. I want to stay in the kingdom. Therefore, you use your mindfulness and protect yourself and touch the kingdom. Continue to touch the kingdom with every breath, with every step. Last year, we offered a retreat for members of the Congress on Capitol Hill. And members of the Congress, they learn how to practice mindful breathing, mindful walking. Before the winter retreat here, we got a letter telling that there are members of the Congress who are now practicing walking meditation on Capitol Hill. They reported that they are so busy. They have to meet with so many people, and it's difficult to keep the practice, but the easiest practice that they can still keep is the practice of walking, mindful walking. And that congressman said that, well, from his office to where he has to vote, he always practiced mindful walking, no thinking at all. And he survived by that practice. No thinking, just breathing and walking. That is why we have to stick to the kingdom, to the practice, to the kingdom in order to protect ourselves. We have to get in touch with the kingdom. And then the path helps us. The path offers us the kingdom and offers other people the kingdom. And that is why it is called the noble path. You are noble not because you of your race, but by your way of living. And the Buddha said that very clearly. If you practice right thinking, your thinking is noble. If you practice right view, your views are noble. If you practice right speech, your speech is noble. If you practice right action, your action is noble. And I can call you your nobleness, your holiness, your nobleness. Because the element of nobility is there. Every time you produce a thought that has the element of understanding and compassion in it, that thought is noble. Every time we say something, and if that something carries compassion, understanding, that speech is noble. You don't have to try to convince that you are noble. You just demonstrate that you are noble. In three aspects: thinking, speech, and action. And nobody can deny that you are really noble, a noble person. And this is what the Buddha said. You are noble because of your way of life and not because of your blood. And the word noble path is very clear. And when you practice the opposite, you follow an ignoble path. Wrong view, wrong thinking, wrong speech, wrong action. And then that open the door of the hell for you and for other people. This morning we spoke of wrong perceptions. Wrong perceptions that bring about hate, anger, fear, discrimination. And wrong perceptions are in the realm of thinking. Our consciousness is like a television set with many channels. If you want the channel hell, you push on the button, the ignoble path, and you have hell right away. And if you want well-being, you push on the button, noble path. Our store consciousness preserve within herself all kind of seeds. The Sanskrit term is bija. And there are wholesome seeds and there are unwholesome seeds. According to Mahayana Buddhism, there are 51 of varieties of seeds. That can bring about 51 mental formation. And we have learned that the seed of anger, when touched, will manifest as a mental formation called anger. The seed of mindfulness is touched, manifests itself as a mental formation called mindfulness of anger. And we learn that if the seed of anger is important, is too important, it can manifest itself up very easily, very quickly. The seed of violence, the seed of despair, the seed of fear. And that is why the practice of mindfulness is to prevent these seeds to grow every day. Everyone has a seed of anger, despair, fear, hate. And if we allow that these seeds to be watered, they will become strong. We will suffer, and we make the people around us suffer. That is why this morning we talk about a peace treaty signed by a couple. Each one promised that he or she will not water the negative seeds in him and in the other person. This is a very beautiful practice of peace, of happiness, called the practice of selective watering. And we have seen that the practice does not need a long time. Half an hour practice can already change the situation. You practice watering the good seed in you, you practice watering the good seed in her or in him. And 15 minutes, 20 minutes after, you and the other person feel much better. And if you know how to do it every day, the situation will change. And you have to sign it, a treaty of practice. And if possible, you sign it in the presence of many friends in the Sangha. The peace treaty is signed in Plum Village by many couples. and between father and son, mother and daughter also, in the presence of Sangha. And after signing, they practice and they report to us. It's very effective practice. According to that practice, not only you refrain from watering the negative seed, but you make the commitment to water the good seeds in the other person and in you. And the other person will make the same commitment to refrain from watering your negative seed, but try to water every day the good seed in you. You practice like gardeners for each other. The person you love is your garden. You have to take good care of your garden. And if the garden yields flowers and fruit, you are the one who enjoy. The Buddha and his senior disciples like Shariputra like to talk about the Second Noble Truth in terms of consumption. Consumption. The Buddha spoke about 4 kinds of food, 4 kinds of nutriments. The first kind of nutriment is called edible food. You take in by the way of the mouth. And the Buddha urges us to consume only items that bring about lightness, healing, nourishment into our body and into our mind. And the second kind of food is called sensory impression. These kind of nutriment come through the way of the eyes, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. You consume by reading articles. When you read an article, you consume. And that article may contain a lot of toxins like craving, violence, fear, discrimination, hate. When you watch television, you consume, because the TV program may be full of poisons. When you drive through the city, you consume, because what you see in terms of advertisement, what you hear in terms of advertisement are also items of consumption. You don't want to consume, but they force you to consume. Driving through the city, you have to see these kind of publicity. And that is why mindfulness helps us to protect ourselves by the practice of mindful consumption, and that is the object of the 5th mindfulness training. Our young people watch television several hours a day, maybe 2, maybe 3 or more, because their parents are so busy. And while watching television, they allow the seed of craving, of violence in themselves to be watered. They keep growing. And this is very dangerous. Even conversation may be highly toxic. What the other person say may be full of hate, of despair. And after 1 hour of listening to him or to her, you feel paralyzed, so much toxin what she said. And that's why don't listen too much to that kind of conversation. And if you are a psychotherapist, it's not wise that you spend all day listening to the suffering of the people. Because you have seed suffering in you. And if you continue to listen to them, the seed of suffering in you will be watered again and again. And someday you get sick and you go to another therapist. And that is why the practice of a therapist is to devote enough time to get in touch with paradise. There must be hours for him or her to practice walking, sitting, getting in touch with the wonders of life for her, for their nourishment, solidity, so that the therapist will have enough strength to do the work, listening to the suffering. And you have to know your limit. If your capacity is to receive 6 persons a day, don't try to do more than 6 persons. You burn out. Your suffering will increase to the point that you will not be able to continue. That is why, as a therapist, you have to practice like this. Get in touch with the third noble truth. Get in touch with the refreshing and healing elements to nourish yourself. Using mindfulness in order to look deeply into the source of well-being and practice mindful consumption so that the negative seeds in you will not be watered. We have 6 doors. To God. We have posted a inspector, a soldier in front of each door. The door of eyes, the door of the ear, the door of the nose, the door of the tongue, the door of the body, and the door of the mind. And do not allow the enemies to penetrate into your citadel. That is the practice of mindful consumption. You select the film, you select the article, you select the music, you select the kind of conversation that will not bring toxins, poisons into yourself. This is the practice of self-protection, and the protection of your family, of your community is very urgent. Step number 1, the 5th mindfulness training. The basic practice for you and for your community. If you don't, and then they grow very big, and they tend to push the door of mind consciousness to come up. Usually, we say that store consciousness is like the basement, and mind consciousness is like the living room. And anything you don't like, you put in the basement. You want to keep the living room beautiful, but the blocks of suffering in you, they don't want to stay in the cave, in the basement. If they have become so strong, they just push the door and settle here without your invitation. Especially during the night, when you have no means to control, they push the door and go into mind consciousness. And during the day also, the violence, the craving, the hate, the anger are pushing hard. Because you have allowed them to grow every day by the way of unmindful consumption. And that is why you try to resist, you try to close the door very firm. You set up a kind of embargo here. You don't allow them to, you repress them. And how do you repress? You try to fill up mind consciousness with other items. And you do that by consumption. You don't feel well. You feel that it's coming up. So you play the music to keep the mind busy. You pick up the telephone and talk. You take the car and drive out. You turn on the television. You do everything in order to keep the living room occupied so that these blocks of pain have no chance to come up. That is the policy that many of us adopt. And the market outside provide us with many items so that they can bring into the living room and fill it up always 24 hours a day in order for, you're afraid that they will come up. And you know something? The thing you consume, like a television, like a novel, they might also contain a lot of toxins, like a craving and hate and violence. And while you are consuming like that, these poisons fall down into store consciousness and make these blocks of suffering grow. Because they are the fruit of unmindful consumption in the past. And now unmindful consumption in the present moment continue to make them grow stronger. And this is a very, very dangerous situation. And that is why the first step is to stop this kind of unmindful consumption, preventing these seeds that are already important not to grow anymore. The first step. Mindful consumption. And you have to discuss the strategy of mindful consumption with your beloved one, with members of your family. You have to meet in emergency, like the cabinet of a government, to meet in emergency to discuss a strategy for self-protection, the protection of the family, of the couple. Mindful consumption is the object of the fifth mindfulness training. Second step is to practice touching the positive. You don't touch the negative, instead you try to touch the positive. Look at the blue sky. Breathing in, I'm aware of the blue sky. Breathing out, I smile at the blue sky. and you touch the blue sky touches you. Breathing in, I'm aware of the mountains. Breathing out, I see that the mountains are wonderful. You touch the beautiful mountains, the blue mountains touch you. There are so many things that are beautiful, refreshing and healing. Get in touch. The kingdom is available. Get in touch with the kingdom. Listen to a Dharma talk. A Dharma talk can water many good seeds in us. When you attend a 7-day retreat, every day you hear a Dharma talk. The Dharma talk is a kind of rain that fall into the soil of your store consciousness and come and water the beautiful seeds that you have in it. And sometimes during a Dharma talk, you feel that a good seed in you sprout and become a flower of freshness, of joy. So in a retreat, the rain of the Dharma always help touch the wonderful seed in you. And then practice mindfulness of breathing, of walking, so that the seed of mindfulness grow, the seed of joy grow. And allow these to have a chance to sleep. Don't give them a chance. Don't consume like we did in the past. And if someone come and is about to touch them, said, please no, don't touch this seed in me. And then when the seed of mindfulness and joy in you are strong enough, when these seed of mindfulness and joy are solid enough, you take the third step. You remove the embargo and allow them to come up one by one. Because if you allow them, if you repress them too long by the way of unmindful consumption, you create a situation of bad circulation of your mind, of your psyche. They want to come up and yet you repress them. And that is why you create a blockage, a situation of bad circulation. And that is the strategy of the majority. We are afraid of them coming up. That is why we occupy the mind with items of consumption, television, novels, music, food, and drugs. Because we know that we are not able to handle them, we use these kind of things. We try everything in order to repress. And when it is like the blood in our body, if the blood in our body does not circulate, many symptoms of illness will manifest. There are many painful spots in our body. We get a headache, we get the pain on the shoulder, we get all kinds of sickness because the blood does not circulate. The same is true with the blood of the mind. When you block your mind and not allow these mental formations to come up, you create a situation of bad circulation, and then slowly symptoms of mental illness will appear. And when you go to the doctor, they don't find any cause in your body, and yet you suffer in your body. And that is why it's dangerous to practice this kind of suppression by the practice of consuming. That is why the third step should be taken. We allow our anger, our fear to come up. Usually we are afraid of doing so. Our strategy is to run away from our suffering. We have no courage to go home to ourselves and confront the suffering. And the Buddha advised us to go home and take care of our suffering. If you know how to practice the second step, you have enough of this energy of mindfulness in order to do the work of recognition and embracing. In sitting meditation, you may allow your anger to come up, and you have mindfulness enough in order to recognize, embrace, and look deeply. Breathing in, I know anger has manifested in me. Breathing out, I embrace my anger with all tenderness. Breathing in, I know that anger is still in me. Breathing out, I am taking good care of my anger. Like a big sister holding the young sister. Like a mother holding a baby. Even if you have not seen, you have not practiced deeply enough in order to see the nature of your anger and transform it, your anger will lose some of its strength after having taken a bath of consciousness, of mindfulness. That's exactly what you do. You allow your anger or your fear or your despair to take a bath of mindfulness. And after that, after 5, 10, 15 minutes, they will come back to store consciousness. A little bit weaker, just a little bit weaker because of the bath of mindfulness. But you have to offer the bath of mindfulness. You have to know how to practice mindful breathing, mindful smiling, mindful walking, to continue generating the energy of mindfulness in order to embrace whatever comes up. Your fear, your anger, your despair. And after some time, having been embraced, they will go down here to their home. And if you can do it once, you are no longer afraid of their coming up. And you say, next time when they come, I will do exactly like that. I will practice mindful breathing, mindful walking, to have enough of this energy of mindfulness. And I embrace it like I have done before. And they go down and a little bit weaker. My dear friends, if you don't believe that you are strong enough, your mindfulness is strong enough to recognize and embrace your pain, and then ask a brother or a sister in the practice to come and sit close to you, holding her hand, asking her to help you with her energy of mindfulness, and together both of you will recognize the pain in you and embrace the pain in you for 3, 5, 10, 15 minutes if needed. You need a co-practitioner when you are weak. She will lend you her mind, energy of mindfulness. And if you have several brothers and sisters in the community, you are no longer afraid, because the boat of the Sangha will keep you from sinking into the river of suffering. Because the collective mindfulness is strong enough to hold your pain and your sorrow. That is why taking refuge in the Sangha is very important, especially when you are a beginner and your mindfulness is not strong enough to recognize and embrace your suffering and give your anger, your despair a chance to take a bath in that energy of mindfulness. That is the energy of the Buddha. And then after you have been able to do it once, you have the confidence, you are not longer afraid. So you open the door, and then blocks of suffering will come up and be taken care of and go down like this. And you restore good circulation. And symptoms of mental illness will go away. And this can be practiced as a group, as a community. And that is why it's very important that you set up a group of practitioners in your area. And you master the techniques of mindful breathing, mindful walking, sitting, and you learn how to touch the Pure Land, the Kingdom of God, every day. The practice should be joyful. The practice should deal not only with the suffering, but with the happiness. And you know that happiness, the kingdom, the Pure Land, is available in the here and the now. The practice should be balanced. Suffering is not enough. The fifth mindfulness training shows us the practice of mindful consumption of edible food and the practice of mindfulness consumption of sensory impressions. Last week we had a retreat for Hollywood entertainers. And we told them that we need them to help us with the practice. They should try to provide us with films that water the good seed in us. And it would be very helpful if they refrain from making the films that water the seed of anger and violence and fear in us. They listen very, very deeply, because they have that good, the seed of wisdom in them. And next week I'm going to meet with a group of producers of film in Hollywood. Please pray for me. I said that I told them that there is already a statue of liberty in the East Coast. But in the name of liberty, we have produced so many items of consumption that very destructive. And that is why I propose that a statue of responsibility be built in the West Coast. And one person in the retreat stood up and said, well, Thầy, I will do it. It's a sculpture. So during that retreat, I did my best to water the seed of compassion, understanding, and responsibility in these people. And let us continue to help them. The third source of nutriment the Buddha talked about is called volition. The deepest kind of desire that we have in ourselves. Because the life of a person is motivated by that desire. If you don't have any desire, you cannot continue to live. The desire may be very, very wholesome or very unwholesome. Siddhartha Gautama, who became a Buddha, he was motivated by a very strong desire to transform himself and to help the world. He's supposed to become a king, a politician. But as he observed, he saw that his father was very helpless, having the power of a king in his hand, but he was helpless. There's a lot of corruption, there's a lot of difficulties, misery in the country. And with that political power, he could not do much. Because there are afflictions, fear, hate, violence, anger in them. So politicians are very limited in their power to act. So Siddhartha did not care about becoming a king and having a lot of power. That is why he left the palace, seeking for a path of transformation and healing. And that desire was so strong in him that he was able to undergo many hardships. Finally, he succeeded in becoming an enlightened person with a lot of understanding and compassion. And he did not feel tired at all during the 45 years of teaching, practicing and helping people. And he helped everyone, kings, ministers, rich businessmen, and scavengers, slaves. He helped everyone. And he accepted all kinds of people in his noble Sangha. In his Sangha there is no caste, there is no race. There is only a race of enlightenment. The noble Sangha. You are the noble Sangha of the Buddha. You are the beloved Sangha of the Buddha. No discrimination. And if you practice mindfulness, concentration, and insight, you bring the element of nobility into your daily life. And that is why the Sangha is called a noble Sangha. If your deepest desire is to have a lot of fame, a lot of sex, a lot of consumption, and then that desire can bring you a lot of suffering. That is why we have to look deeply into our deepest desire to find out whether that is wholesome or unwholesome. If you are motivated by desire to transform yourself and to help your people, your community to transform, to bring joy and hope, into their life, to live with the spirit, with the wisdom of non-discrimination. Capable of protecting themselves from complexes and suffering, so that your community will be a powerful instrument for social change. And then you have the best kind of volition. And that gives you an infinite source of energy. You become very alive, very dynamic in your daily life. And you make your community into a dynamic community. Because your community also has a deepest desire for social change. Social change, social justice, equality, can be obtained with the transformation of our consciousness, of our collective consciousness. Because consciousness is at the base. If we are not capable of changing ourselves, our way of thinking, our way of perceiving, if you are not free from wrong perceptions, and then any kind of action, no matter how direct they are, cannot bring the kind of result we want. Actions like sit in, teach in, pray in, wait in, will be meaningful only when they are born from our freedom, our compassion, our understanding. If you have the wisdom of non-discrimination, if you have the energy of understanding and compassion, and then these kind of action can bring about the result very quickly. Social change is only the outcome of the change of our consciousness. Then this is why this practice should be done right away in our family and in our community. In your community of Pure Land practice, organize to do it, to practice it in your family, in a community. In your church, Baptist or not, you practice the same kind of practice, getting in touch with the kingdom every day, several times a day, learning how to handle the suffering, individual and collective, for transformation and healing. These are the basic practice. And if you succeed in transforming yourself, your community, and then social change will come about very easily. And many people looking at you, looking at your way of life, see that you embody the practice of non-discrimination, of compassion. They can join you. And you have a lot of allies. Even if they don't belong to the same kind of culture. And this is the points that we have to discuss in our Dharma discussions. One day, a leader of the Native American community came to me. We met in Vermont, and he invited me to join him in speaking tour in Europe and others to speak about the plight, the suffering of the Native Americans, to draw the people's attention in the world to that suffering. I invited to sit down and to have a cup of tea with me. And very slowly I tried to tell him that the first step is not that. The first step is that he go home to his community and help his community to practice these kind of basic things, like the 5 mindfulness trainings, creating brotherhood, sisterhood, awakening, to free ourselves from wrong perceptions, from wrong discrimination, because discrimination does not only exist in them. Discrimination does exist in each of us. We have both hell and paradise in us. They also have hell and paradise in us. So if we are capable of touching paradise and transform hell in us, we will be able to help them touch the paradise in them and transform hell in them. They are no longer our enemies. They are the people we want to help. But we have to help ourselves first. It's not a problem of protesting, because we can see them as victims of their wrong perceptions, of their own ignorance and fear and violence. And that is why, to me, it's very crucial, it's very urgent to go home to ourselves and to our community and begin the real practice. The practice of mindful consumption. So that we can heal our body, we can heal our consciousness, our mind. And this kind of practice, mindful consumption, not to use alcohol, not to use drugs, not to use items of consumptions like television programs, books that can bring toxin in us, is at the base, at the foundation of our practice. And then at a time when our young people no longer use drugs and consume these toxic items, we become a living Dhamma talk. We can come and help those who are still in prison because of the fact that they have consumed drugs and they have committed violence, because they they had violence in them, but they did not know how to handle violence in them. That is why they have got into prison. We have to try ways in order to come to help them. In my tradition, in the ancient time, Buddhist temples did work like a farming, agricultural Zen. No work, no food, so we farm our land and support our community. And we went to the government and we asked them to hand over to us a number of prisoners. I make the commitment to teach these prisoners. Do we want to accept them to our community? We will give the work for them, farming, to do, and they learn the practice of the 5 mindfulness trainings. And the government, the authority, believe in the Buddhist tradition, because we had succeeded in many times to transform, to teach prisoners. And finally, we help these prisoners to get married, to have a plot of land, to build a house, and to start their life. In the past, we had been able to do things like that. I think in our time, we can do things that are similar. There are young men and women who have got so much violence and fear in themselves. And also the seed of craving is big. They don't know how to handle these seeds. They have committed crimes. They have done wrong things. And they have got into prisons, and they should be helped. We should have programs to help them to transform. We could talk to the government, to the correction institutions, that there are better ways to help a young person to transform than put him in prison. We can organize communities of mindful living. We can give these, we can guarantee for these people, and we can help them transform and become good citizens of the society. And this is in the scope of our practice, the practice of mindful living, the practice of transformation and healing. This practice prescribed by the Buddha is not only to help the individual. In fact, the Buddha urged us to practice as a community. And when the community embodies the spirit of the Dharma, and then the community can have an impact on society and produce social change. And it looks like each monk, each lay person in his beloved Sangha become a kind of social worker. Social worker in the broader sense, broader meaning. When you can help a person to see his path and to get motivated by the desire to transform and to do good, you are a social worker. When you organize a Dharma discussion or a day of mindfulness and help people to touch the Dharma, to taste the joy of the practice of peace, well, you are doing social work. So the spiritual and the social realms, they are not separated. whatever you can do in the spiritual realm will benefit deeply the social realm, and so on. There is the fourth nutriment called consciousness. Consciousness as food. The Buddha said everything comes from consciousness. And when consciousness is taken care of, when wrong perceptions have been removed, consciousness becomes wisdom. And our way of thinking, our way of feeling determine everything. One person may have a feeling like fear, like anger. And if that person is an artist or a writer, he can share his fear and anger with other people. And together they create a collective feeling of fear, of anger. And when fear has become collective, anger has become collective, it is extremely dangerous. The September 11th event created a lot of fear and anger at the same time. Not many people help us to understand our fear, our anger, embrace them, and look deeply into the nature of our fear or anger. And our government has acted on the foundation of that collective fear and anger. It's very dangerous. The war on terrorism has forced us to look for the worst in people. In the Buddhist tradition, the Buddha reminds us that everyone has Buddha nature. Everyone has the kingdom of peace inside. And there is Bodhisattva who goes around and tell people, "Oh, I do not underestimate you. You are a Buddha to become." And that is his message. Everyone has Buddha nature. But the war on terrorism is seeking the opposite. Every passenger on a plane could be a terrorist. If you have traveled in the last few years, you know. They are not looking for your Buddha nature. They are looking at you as a potential terrorist. And when a culture goes like that, it goes wrong. And yet not many people, many of us wake up to that reality. And a writer. And if you have got the insight of interbeing and the wisdom of non-discrimination, you know the noble way, noble path of realizing peace and touching joy. You can write a novel or a story that can influence people, and you create a collective feeling of brotherhood, of awakening. And you can provide people with the kind of consciousness food that is healthy. Because you, as a writer, as a filmmaker, as a teacher, as a parent, you can change consciousness. You can create a collective consciousness that goes in the right direction. Consciousness that contains elements of understanding, compassion, and non-discrimination. If you live in a society where everyone believes the same thing, you believe the same thing. You go to an art exhibition and you feel that you don't understand any painting. They don't look beautiful to you, but everyone say, oh, so how beautiful, and you see the price is very high, and you are forced to believe that they are beautiful. And that beauty is a fabrication of collective consciousness. And you know, the stock market, the value of stock market is purely invention of the mind. It has no ground of reality. And that is why it's very important that you associate not with the foolish one, with the people who have so much fear and discrimination. You have to seek for a community, for a neighborhood where people are thinking in terms of compassion, understanding, and allow your children to live in that environment. Care about the fourth kind of nutriment of consciousness. And therefore, your community should be organized in such a way that sane, healthy kind of food will be provided. Not only edible food, sensory impression food, wholesome desire, but also healthy collective consciousness. And that discourse of the Buddha about the four kinds of nutriments is very, very important. It should be studied and put into the practice, because mindful consumption seems to be the only way out. And should be the object of studies of all department of nutrition. We need the time to come together, to go deeply into these matters. There is a way out. We should be able to have the time to build our Sangha. Sangha is the only safe place for us and for our children. And in the context of the Sangha, we sit down and practice looking deeply into our situation. And Sangha is the place where we can generate the energy of mindfulness, concentration. We can get the best kind of insight that can be the torch lighting our path, the path of transformation, healing, that will lead to social change. If you want you think we can do it, and then you have to organize a longer retreat. This retreat is an opportunity for us to come together and to realize how important this kind of practice is. You know, in 1956, Dr. Ambedkar organized a ceremony of transmission of the 5 mindfulness trainings in Nagpur, India. He was an untouchable. He had been, and his ancestors had been victims of discrimination for a long time, millions of years. And he found out in Buddhism a path of non-discrimination. He realized that the Buddha is a friend. It's because the teaching of the Buddha is the teaching of non-discrimination. Whether you are noble or not depends on your action, your way of life, and not your caste. So he organized an ordination ceremony for people to receive the 3 refuge and the 5 trainings. And there were 500,000 people took the 3 refuge at the same time that morning in Nagpur. I have been able to go there and help the untouchable Buddhists in India. They want to invite me again for a day of mindfulness. There may be 300,000 people attending the day of mindfulness. They have taken up the Buddhist practice as a refuge because they feel more comfortable in a teaching that is all-embracing. But the political will, although it is strong, although the political will for change is strong, the practice is not real and strong enough. Most of the people embrace Buddhism because they believe that Buddhism can offer a chance for social change, social justice. And the act of taking the 5 refuge and the 3 refuge and 5 precepts is an act of has a lot of political meaning in it. But to me, it is the practice, the basic practice, that will bring about real emancipation. Political action is not enough. Social action is not enough. There should be the real practice, the solid practice. And I urge you, my friends, to go home and begin right away the basic, solid practice of transformation and healing in our family and in our community. Political, social change will be possible, will be easier, much easier, when we have that foundation of practice.